It is Y105, Dubuque's #1 hit music station. My name is Steve Pulaski. Got a gentleman on my phone line. I'd like to touch base with him a couple times in the year on the air. Haven't heard his voice for a while, though. He used to be a weekly staple on the morning show. I still want to incorporate him as much as I can because he's a good friend of mine. He's a great part of this show. You might remember Mr. Robert Miller, the former president of business operations for the Dubuque Fighting Saints, currently working with the FedEx-St Jude Championship of the PGA Tour. Robert, how are you, brother?
Good morning, sir, man. What a way to kick off 25 to be on the phone with you, man. I'm elated to be here this morning. What's going on?
I love it, man. I appreciate you making the time. I know you're an extremely busy man, but I know you keep the Fighting Saints close to your heart, Robert, and we were talking a little bit off air, too. You still keep in touch with the team. You still stream the games on our sister station, Eagle 102.3, when you get the opportunity. I guess we'll start here. What's your reaction so far? We've got several months of hockey in the books. What's your reaction to the Fighting Saints season thus far?
Man, I'll be honest. Yeah, I mean, I'm still in love with that team and that city. My kids are, they grew up watching the Fighting Saints. I mean, for the past 3 years, they've been to almost every single game. So it's become a thing in our household where every single time the Saints are on, we're listening to Josh Starr on Eagle, and it's outstanding. I mean, the year they're having, the team they have, the how competitive they are. It's unreal what's going on. Especially, it couldn't happen to a better couple individuals. I mean, you got Evan Dixon, that got his chance to be a head coach, and he stepped in and done such a good job. And then you got Casey White. He was able to come over and kind of take the helm as president, and some of the things he's been able to kind of carry through and continue on, and then add his own stuff through. Him and that team with Josh Mosier and RJ Gousset and all those guys that are just doing it for that organization. It's just, I'm so happy for the organization as a whole right now and in the direction that it's going in. And so it was kind of bittersweet last year. Getting beat by Fargo. I would have loved to see a championship season, but at the same token, to see the team they have in place and what they're able to do, because that's hard in the USHL to go back-to-back years being that good. And so, we are definitely in tuned. We can't wait for this weekend. We know this weekend's going to be a really big game for them. And so, love some Fighting Saints. Can't get enough of it.
He is Robert Miller. Again, worked with the Fighting Saints for a couple of years. Now he is working with the PGA Tour, still keeping the Fighting Saints, though, close to his heart. The next game is going to be a big one, a unique one that you really wish you didn't have to do, but one that I'm glad is happening, at least for the family, at least for the fans, and at least for everybody who remembers very fondly Johnny Gaudreau, a.k.a. Johnny Hockey. Him and his brother Matthew killed in a cycling accident at the end of August. Johnny Gaudreau Memorial Night's happening on Saturday, the Fighting Saints. They've really kept a lot of things under wraps as far as the ceremony is going to go and things like that, Robert, but I guess we really haven't talked about it, since Gaudreau and his brother were killed. What was your reaction to that, just knowing Gaudreau's continued involvement in the Fighting Saints organization and his impact in the Dubuque community, too?
The situation as a whole is crazy. You're in town with your family, you're riding a bike with your brother, and a tragedy happens, and it's absolutely devastating. And if anybody's ever had a chance to even be on the phone with Johnny or have a conversation with him or to know who he was, and luckily enough, Casey and I were able to kind of connect with him because he had a huge part and a huge emphasis with the Dubuque Fighting Saint even after he left. Just absolutely just tragic, and you can't even put into words how that stuff kind of makes you feel. And I know people with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I know the tribute they did there, and how that affected that organization. And I tell you what, it goes back to my first year. I remember Coach Greg Brown looked at me. We're both new to the organization. We had just hired Greg. Greg comes up to my office and says, "Hey, why don't you speak to the the incoming players and stuff like that." And one of the things that I got a chance to talk to those players that year, didn't get a chance to speak much to them, but it's kind of like one of those things like, hey guys, when you're here with the Dubuque Fighting Saint, you're here to better your career, play hockey, move on to the next thing, grow yourselves. But you leave a lasting legacy in Dubuque, Johnny, in his situation with Dubuque, not only was, the legacy that he left there because he won a championship, but the legacy he left because, all these guys go off and have great stories and they have highlights and they have success. But the success that Johnny was able to have on the ice, it brought a real, it made Dubuque proud. Every time you heard something when he was in Calgary, every time you heard something when he was going to the All-Star game, every time you heard something when he, moved over to Columbus, a part of that whole movement that Johnny did still had a little bit of Dubuque in him. And so that's one thing that I really was stressing to those players that, hey, when you walk around the community, when you play here, you leave a lasting legacy. And so, Casey and I were able to put together the St. for Life night, along with the whole staff. And that was to honor those players, from the 80s, honor those players from, the early years and stuff like that. And so, even the players from the 80s, they leave a legacy in Dubuque, and they really and truly carry a torch for this community that makes them proud. I mean, we are the top sports team in that city. And so, when you have a guy like Johnny and, he's on a rocket ship through the NHL and just kind of continuing to carry through, I mean, it's something that it hits the heart of every single person that's ever, invested in the Dubuque Fighting Saints, followed the Dubuque Fighting Saints, especially the Billet families. I mean, if you really and truly ever get a chance to talk to some of these Billet families, I mean, they put their heart and soul into these kids. They invite these kids into their house for 8, 9, 10 months sometimes. And so it's an amazing thing, the connection that they build, with some of these players. And so when you have a tragedy happen like that with a USHL team player or USHL player that, used to play for that team, it's only right. And I'll be honest with you, Casey and I talked a little bit before the season about it, and, it was Casey's idea to wait. I mean, he really and truly said, hey, I want to do this thing right. I don't want to do this thing rushed. And I think that's why it's happening, January 11th instead of happening at the very beginning of the season. I think it was absolutely just an ingenious move on his part to really and truly kind of take the time to make sure they do this thing right. And so I'm excited to see what he's going to do. I mean, I know his team has been working diligently on it. He's been working on it. I mean, it's one of those things that there's a lot of passion going behind this night from the organization itself. And, the fans have spoken too. I mean, I think this is the first game where we're already at standing room only before the day of the game, which, I don't think we've been there since 2010 for a championship. I mean, it's absolutely, a blessing to kind of just see the reaction that the crowd's having, the city's having, the support's coming through and stuff like that. So I'm so excited about the night coming up. It is bittersweet. I mean, we lost a Saint for Life. We lost a guy that made something huge in this city, brought a championship back. I mean, you got to think that this organization left for years and then comes back 2010 and wins a championship. I mean, outstanding. It's one of those things that's just you can't write this story too much, but like I said, it's bittersweet. But I cannot wait to see how they honor this guy. And I just think all the players that ever come through Dubuque, especially the players on the ice that night, whether you're with Sioux City or whether you're with Dubuque, I hope every one of those players realize the impact that you have for your city when you come to that city and play in the USHL.
Extremely well said. Again, Robert Miller, former president of business operations with the Dubuque Fighting Saints. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this, Robert. One more thing. You are now working with PGA Tour, the FedEx-St Jude Championship, part of the PGA Tour specifically. Feel free to talk about anything that you'd like to talk about, just your experiences so far. I know the last time we talked, you were still a little bit, I guess, green in the role and things like that, but I know it's something that you've been tackling ardently and having a lot of fun with and really enjoying the overall experience. So anything that you'd like to share with your newfound venture, man, I'm all ears.
Yeah, I tell you, if you look at my career, I've kind of been all over the place. I think the only sports league I really and truly haven't touched so far is the NFL, but everything else I've been a part of in some way. And the PGA Tour is absolutely amazing. This organization, is built, for its employees and really and truly takes care of its employees. And, the next couple years with the PGA Tour and golf itself, this could be just a rocket ship of success over the next couple of years. And we just started with our first tournament this year, the Century out in Maui. Really good, operation out there. Very good friend of mine runs that tournament. And so, you kind of see, the first one kind of get off, and then you realize that, hey, our season started and we're off and running. And so the beautiful thing about the tournament that I help run is, this tournament is our first round of our FedEx Cup. So it is the first round of our playoff system. And so it's outstanding to be a part of. And so we did record numbers last year, with the short time I was here, and we're just absolutely kind of, carrying that through, going through this year to really and truly, kind of build on that success. And so we're making a really big bright spot for the city of Memphis. This tournament is in Memphis. If you look at, kind of what this tournament does for the economic impact, the philanthropic impact, we bring a really big bright spot to the city. And so beautiful golf course, fantastic layout. It's outstanding to be a part of. And not only that, after it's all said and done, we're able to write a huge check, on behalf of our tournament to St. Jude Hospital. And I'll tell you, St. Jude, I mean, that's one thing that's really been incredible about my experience here is I've learned so much more about St. Jude and what they actually do and how they actually do it and the cancer research that goes into it. And I mean, these guys are fighting every day to save the lives of kids that are going through just some, horrific situations and stuff like that. And so it's a really, really cool experience to be a part of. I mean, honestly, every day I miss my time in Dubuque. I mean, it was a great 3 years, but I mean, the opportunity that presented itself that now I'm at, I mean, it's unbelievable, Steve. I can't even begin to tell you in words how much fun I'm having and how just incredibly, unbelievable the experience is every day when I get to come to work and do what I do, knowing how much good we're doing in the city, how much good we're doing in the world, and how much of an impact we're making within the PGA Tour with this being such a big tournament and a championship management event.
You deserve the success, Robert. I always appreciate your time. I'm grateful to call you a friend, and I'm grateful you could loan some of your time today as you are very busy to talk about the Dubuque Fighting Saints and also all the excellent work that you are doing with the PGA Tour. Again, he is Robert Miller, former president of business operations with the Dubuque Fighting Saints, currently with the PGA Tour. Robert, I greatly appreciate your time, man. I want to have you on once again before the end of the season, maybe when we go into the playoff time, to talk more Fighting Saints if you'd be willing and able.
Absolutely, sir. I'm always here, man. You know me. I mean, you give me an opportunity to talk and have a good time with this, man. I look forward to this stuff, so I appreciate the invite. And, give me a call whenever you're ready, man.
Makes two of us. Robert, I greatly appreciate your time. I wish you nothing but continued success, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.